on, it's working. Good.
Hi, so I'm Corey Walmsley, and this is Matt Scoletti, and we are coming to you live from Panera, and nobody's told us yet we can't podcast from in here or interview from in here or any of that kind of stuff, so we're going to do it until we get kicked out.
We're going for it.
So, Matt Scoletti was one of my clients, in 2018, I think?
Yeah, 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, so a couple years ago we started working together on his book, The First 15, which is just such an amazing story. He talks about his personal story as well as how you can implement a morning routine to make major changes in your own life. So I'm going to let him talk a little bit about who he is and what he does, because he has such an amazing story and list of accolades, et cetera, et cetera. So Matt, tell us a little bit about you.
I will do that. So Matt Scoletti from Murraysville, Pennsylvania, and I'll just give you the quick story. So basically my story started when I was a senior in high school. It felt like I had everything. I was captain of the basketball team, dating the head cheerleader, all that good stuff. And then I went off to college, and when I went to college is when I discovered alcohol, and that's when the slippery slope started. And for 4 years, I think part of the problem was I liked alcohol. I liked how I felt. I wasn't nervous around girls when I was drinking. I was outgoing, dancing like crazy. And I thought, maybe this is just a part of who I am. And after college ended, I figured, okay, after school, I'll get back to normal. And I couldn't. For the next 6 years after I graduated college, I kept drinking on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 or 5 nights a week minimum, and not one drink with dinner. It was 4, 5, 6 drinks. So the moment that everything changed for me was October of 2011. I had started journaling how I felt in the morning when I would wake up hungover. And that morning in October 2011, I woke up hungover again after a Halloween party. And for the first time, I read all of the journal entries from the previous 5 months. And I'm crying my eyes out, but in a good way, because I'm finally seeing the pattern of what my life had become. And the pattern was I was doing the same thing over and over again. I'm just drinking. I'm not growing in my life. And I figured if I could just control and own the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of the morning, then I can start trending in the right direction. And the first thing for me to do was wake up sober would be a good start. So that's where it started, and that's where the whole idea of the first 15 came from, is I got full control of the first 15 minutes with this morning routine that I developed, and it transitioned into eating healthier, getting better sleep, waking up earlier, into some of the accolades like being on American Ninja Warrior and being able to train with the Navy SEALs multiple times, and being on America's Funniest Home Videos for smacking myself in the face with a resistance band. Yes, that actually happened. That is a good video. If you want to check out on YouTube, I'm sure you can still see that. Biking 24 hours in Australia last year. It's just been all of this amazing stuff that's happened in my life, and I attribute a lot of it to this morning routine.
Awesome. So that's the backstory. So then, why did you decide to write a book? Because I know you were already looking into speaking, you were doing some speaking engagements at that point. So why a book?
Because you made me do it. No, she didn't. She absolutely didn't. Why a book is because kind of the feedback that I started getting from people telling the story in these very small speaking places. And I give a lot of credit to Toastmasters, where I started my speaking. And I'd tell them the story, I'd tell different small groups the story, and they'd say, this is like book material. You should write a book about your personal journey and how you did all this. And I thought, you know what, maybe I will. And I knew nothing about how to write a book, where I would write a book, where I would start. And thank goodness we got connected, because if it wasn't for that, I would still be fumbling around speaking randomly in different areas in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I think it was the feedback from the audiences I was getting in front of that made me start to think maybe this is a good enough story to turn into a book.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I do want to talk a little about how we ended up working together. So our friend Denise Scaloni connected us, and one of the funny things Matt told me was that if I can get through this book, this will be more books that I've written than I've read.
Why do you have to say that to the audience? That's so
because
true.
It's funny.
That is very true. It's true. I mean, it's a true story. It wasn't until I wrote a book that I learned how powerful reading books is.
Yeah.
Hey, just because you said that, now I got to bring this up to
He
the
does
viewers
read
out
books
there.
now.
I've read 42 books this year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to read a book a week, and I think it's because I haven't read for the first 33 years of my life, and now I got a lot of making up to do. But yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
It's a good joke and good story. Yeah.
Okay, so we started working together on this book. We planned out the structure. We started looking at what goes into a book, what makes good material for connecting with your audience, what kind of stuff you need to do to really make that, especially your big denouement, the turning point.
Yes, that
yeah,
She
that
helped
big
me out with that
point.
big time.
I know we talked a lot about that. I was actually telling somebody about this the other day, where you woke up on your floor and you were hungover, and I can't believe I ever told anybody this. I want to smell the vomit. I want
tell me that.
to feel how disgusting
I forgot
you
about
feel.
that. You did tell me all of that. Yeah.
So we really worked on that section and made it so powerful
Yeah.
for people, because we wanted them to see like basically stop time.
Yeah.
This is where you stood when you made that big decision in your life to change, and it was incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I think it was too.
I'm very proud of how that book turned out.
Oh,
And
I give you all of the credit for that, because Corey had to really tweak and help me out with that. But you're right. The way that I wrote it the first time, it wasn't nearly as powerful as I needed it to be to really hit home with the audience. You're right.
That's one of the fun things about working with a coach, is you get to sit down and work on that part.
And smell the vomit.
Smell
You're
the
right.
vomit,
That's great.
Yeah. Every coach wants you to smell the vomit. So that was the first half of the book. It was telling this powerful story.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the book, when we worked on that, it was how to get people to be able to do it themselves. And it wasn't just, hey, I did this, you do this too.
Right.
It was, talking about why this is powerful and how you can implement this in your day, and maybe some changes you can make to make it work for you. And I think that is one of the most important things to put in a book, is how you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're just telling a story, like, that's really powerful, but you want people to be able to reflect on what's going on in here too.
Yep.
How can they make change? Like, they might read a story and go, oh, this is great, but I like to make it very obvious for them. Like, yes, you can make the change. Yes, you can do this, and this is how. And by doing that, by including all that stuff in the book, that's how people can then look at Matt and go, oh, well, now I want to work with you. Now I want to hire you as a speaker, because you do have this powerful way of getting people to change. So I want to talk about things that have happened for you since the book, because I have been watching you online, and I see tons of videos. I see you doing all kinds of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the doors that have opened because of this book.
I'm excited about this, because there have been, I'll say this before I start, more doors have opened than I ever thought would open, and I didn't know what to expect. First book, what's going to happen. I knew it was good because we were working together, but I had no idea what this would turn into. And I think really, we didn't even talk about this yet, but I think one of the things that it did for me was build confidence in myself, because I did something that, not that I didn't think I could do, but I had never really thought about doing before. So my speaking after the book came out almost just was elevated, because my confidence level was so much higher in myself. So I don't know that it matters what genre that you're trying to get into, but it can't hurt your confidence by writing a book. So I think the confidence was the first thing that happened. And then I use the book often as my form of business card. I mean, I have a business card, but when I use the book, it's if I'm in talks with somebody to come. So I do a lot of professional speaking, keynote speaking in front of 10 to 1,000 people, and I use the book with prospects to say, here's my story. If you want to see a lot of the things that I speak about, you'll see my background, you'll see my morning routine, and I send it to them. And often it's just a great response. It's, first off, they don't expect you to send them the book, or I send them 5 and say, give them to some of your staff. And I have never got negative feedback from somebody saying, oh, I'm upset that you sent me this book.
Books.
Yeah, we don't want books. Yeah. But I think, and actually I talked about this last night in the speech, I think it's very important when however you're using your book, if you're going to give it to somebody or donate it to somebody or use it to try to get business, if you do it only because you're expecting something in return, you're going to lose, because that's more of manipulation than just giving. I would recommend giving not really, I mean, maybe you hope to get something in return, but if you get nothing, it's not the end of the world. You go on to the next person. So for me, it's opened up, to your original question, it's opened up so many opportunities to speak, and I think I've been in front of, I think it's been 36, I should go back and look at that, 36 audiences in 2019, and 2020 is already more than that booked out. So I think my goal is to get at least 50 speaking engagements in 2020, because I think that's a good spot where I need to be to continue to grow, and maybe work on another book. I don't know. We'll talk to somebody about that offline. But yeah, the doors that have opened have been many more than I could have even imagined. And yeah, it's a win-win. And it just feels so, the other thing I'll say is, this was really the first time I told my full story of not holding back. I was an alcoholic. It's the first time I used those real terms to describe myself. And the first thing I thought was, I'm scared. I don't want everyone to know what I went through. But the exact opposite thing happened. So many people, and it still happens, often email me, come up to me and say, oh my God, I've either been through addiction or I have a family member that's going through it. And it's not, they don't judge you, they relate to the story. And that's been probably the most powerful, positive impact that I didn't really expect. And it's like when you're vulnerable in sharing your story, writing a book, it just helps connect with people. And it's not like they're gonna be pushed away because you're not perfect, because nobody's perfect, except for my dad. I think he thinks he is, but that's a story for another day. Yeah.
I think that's really important what you touched on there, that relatability combined with the instant expert status.
Yeah.
Because when somebody's booking a speaker, or when they want to work with a coach, or meet you, or whatever it is, they want to talk to somebody who's going to be relatable. They want somebody who's relatable to their audience, and they also want somebody who can stand in that expertise, somebody who is owning that spot in their industry.
Yeah.
So a book is something that is fantastic for that. And I love that you're giving books to everybody too. That's
not everybody,
that's
but I'm
actually,
giving some to a lot.
That's actually something that we forgot to bring up. So
oh yeah, we did.
Everybody who asks a question while we are live gets thrown in a lottery to win a copy of the first 15.
There it is.
This amazing book.
I can't tell if it's going to show up backwards on the video or forwards. I don't know.
I'm not sure. But it says the first 15.
Yeah.
And it's not written backwards. The whole book is readable. So you get a copy of that.
Ask a question.
Ask questions. Find out about Matt's journey as a writer, as a speaker, any of that kind of stuff. Ask a question, you get thrown in the lottery. So, so you are clearly getting out there more and more and more. And did you want to talk a little about your podcast that's coming
Sure,
up?
yeah.
Okay.
The podcast, so, and really this all ties into the book, because it's all part of that confidence building and getting myself more speaking engagements. And then you get the feedback of people saying, even asking, do you have a podcast? And I would say no, because I didn't. And I like to do this, so talking is fun for me, as long as I can add value. I don't like to just talk. But I launched a podcast about, I think it's been a month and a half now, so there's 7 episodes of, it's called Living the Dream podcast, and if you search my name, it comes up, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I'm going to start interviewing people, as we said, but it's just been me so far. And I talk about my story, but I talk about personal growth and coming up with ideas that you can use to hopefully, I say, level up in your life, in your business, in your relationships, anything. So it's been a pretty awesome journey so far, and I think all of that just ties in with the business. It's, to me, I just got asked this question last night, which was a great question. This woman asked me, how do you find the balance of stuff that you give away for free and what you charge people for? And to be honest, I don't know the answer to that, but I know it's almost the more that I've given out for free, the more people have consumed whatever 30-second period was where they said, oh, I get that. Maybe let's book this guy to come speak. So to me, it's almost, I feel that the more that I've put out there as far as podcasts for free, or people that are coming to my speaking engagements, I typically give out a few books. That has proven to get me, I mean, it's an attention game. So the more attention you're getting, the more often you're probably going to get booked to speak, or whatever your business is, the more often you're going to get coaching clients or whatever you're trying to do. So I think there's definitely a balance of what you charge for and what you give away, but it feels like, especially with a podcast, giving some of my best content for free hasn't been a negative thing. It's only helped the business.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Okay, we don't have any questions yet. So we're going to have to keep talking.
Keep talking. Let's just keep talking. What if they ask a question after it posts? We can still do that, right?
Yeah,
we'll let that
maybe
slide.
do until like tomorrow morning.
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Let's
so
do it.
you have 24 hours
24
to
hours.
ask questions.
I like that idea.
Clock is on.
It's a season of giving. Happy holidays. Yeah.
Actually, you were talking about, before we went on, I wanted to bring this up where you were talking about the kids group, the entrepreneurs that you talked to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was a good speaking engagement, and you just like decided to give books to those kids.
Oh, the one that already happened.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, actually, it's funny because I've actually done that multiple times, and actually, I think this leads into another story of, I did an event. What was that in March, April, something like that, and I ended up I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened now. Well, I ended up sending books to, I don't know if this is the same story, but I sent books to a school this is the story. I sent books to a school in Tennessee, and it was actually it's like a rehab place where they help kids that are dealing with drug and alcohol, mostly with their parents or their older siblings. So I saw them on Instagram, and I thought, this is just really cool what they're doing. Why don't I, send them down some books? And I connected with the guy who ran the organization, and I said, if you can use these in any way, I think I sent 5 books. That's great. If not, that's great too. But I told him a little bit of the background. I struggle with addiction. I use this morning routine to help me get out of that. I hope it helps. And I sent him the 5 books. And he responded and said, looking forward to the books. Like, we'll keep you in the loop. So I think maybe a few weeks went by. He said thanks for the books and everything, and that was kind of it. And then about 4 weeks after that, he reaches out to me and says, they're in Knoxville, Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville. Hey, Matt, I wanted you to know I talked to the principal of a school that we work with, actually 4 schools that they work with. They would love to have you come down and speak to the school about your story. And it all happened because I sent 5 books down there. And by the way, it also happened, I think, because in my heart, it was just, let's give them 5 books, and if nothing happens, that's fine. Just hopefully it can help one person. And it turned out, actually, it's funny. So I went down there, I think it was October. I went down there for 3 days, and it was one day of speaking, and I gave 5 keynotes in about 6 hours. And it was one of the greatest days of my life. I kid you not. I wrote in my journal, like, this is the best day of my life, because it was crazy busy, but I got in front of so many different kids and audiences, and it was just, I felt so blessed to be able to do that. And now every year they already told me we need to set up a contract for you to come down in 2020. So it all happened because I gave 5 books out, which was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to trusting your gut and
True.
just going with it.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you give things and then you end up getting back, like that just blows my mind.
Well, I mean, if you keep giving good out there, right, something inevitably it's going to happen where you're going to get something in return.
Yeah.
I hope anyways. It's
Yeah.
working so far. Yeah. But again, and if nothing happens in return, I have to be okay with that too. Because if I'm just doing it, giving with expecting something,
well, you have to trust too that you've written this book to help people.
That's
and
right.
You believed that you would be helping people with that. So even
Yeah.
if it stops there, you have to trust that your book is helping those kids.
That's it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I think we should probably wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So let's talk about any advice you might have for people who've been kind of thinking about writing a book and they're kind of iffy on it. Is it hard? Does it take a long time?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Okay. So I didn't mention this yet. My background in writing is zero. I wrote nothing until you and I wrote Facebook posts that were half a paragraph long, and that was about it. So I never wrote before working with Corey here, and my 1-sentence comment would be, it is not nearly as intimidating as you may think it is. It's not intimidating. And I've never worked with anybody else, but all I know is the process that Corey and I had to get the book done. I never felt rushed. I never felt overwhelmed. And if I did feel a little off, we had a discussion for 5 minutes, and I thought, okay, I'm back on. Like, let's get back to it. We set the goals of every couple weeks having this done and this done, and then it was just, I'm not going to say it was the easiest, but it was so much easier than I had in my head of writing a book. So I try to pound the table with anybody that even brings up the idea of writing a book. Just start, reach out to you, figure out a plan, and just start, because I just talked about this last night, so I'm thinking about this. So I often talk about, who knows how long we have on the planet, but when you write a book, when you tell your story or get your words out there, it may impact somebody that comes into the planet 200 years from now. I mean, who knows? You have a legacy. It's going to be out there forever. And I just think just starting, connecting with you, and going from there is just, it's going to be life-changing for you or whoever starts writing their book. And I just highly suggest not hesitating, because it's nowhere near as intimidating as you may think it is.
That's
it.
You said that.
It's just so true. It's so true. And I love telling anybody that I had zero experience with any of this, because it's just true. I did nothing. And I think we did it like 4 months maybe to write the book. And that wasn't, I never felt overwhelmed. I really did.
Yeah,
so
I don't think it was rushed.
No, it wasn't rushed at all. Yeah.
Good
But
pacing.
just start. Start. And perfection's never going to happen. Right? It's never going to be. I'd
Yeah.
rather have it be done and out there than trying to get everything perfect, because nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Well,
But it
plus
does feel
when
good.
you're working with a coach and an editor, you have everything in here. I provide
Yeah.
the structure. I provide all of the, okay, this is industry standards. This is what we need to do. This is what you need if you're going to publish.
Yeah.
So if you just give everything you've got in here, then I'm giving you the structure, guiding you, and all of that, and it goes so much smoother.
That's so true.
So.
And last thing is, your story is good enough. That's another thing, because
Yes.
I hear a lot of people tell me, I don't know about my story, and then they tell me the story, I'm like, what? Like, you need to write about that. So if you ever question whether your story is good enough or not, it is. And if you're even thinking about writing a book, you got to do it.
Yeah.
There's no better time than right now, leading into 2020.
Yes, absolutely.
Hashtag goals.
Yeah. Good time to be setting up your stuff for 2020.
It is.
Definitely.
It's perfect. Yeah. Crank it out. There's almost no downside. Is the amazing thing.
Yeah.
There's no downside to writing a book.
Yeah,
Leave
exactly.
a legacy, improve your business, work with this one. That's it. It's that simple. And we're gonna do another one together.
Yeah, I think we've got something big coming.
I think we do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say anything yet, because
I
I'm
know,
not sure
I know.
exactly where it's gonna go, but I have some ideas.
I know. I am going to give a teaser though.
Hit it. Yeah.
So this is actually basically for anybody. It's not just Matt. It's anybody who's a speaker, anybody who's got a business. Your book needs to focus on what your core values are, your core beliefs, all the stuff that, is really powerful inside of you, the things that you are super passionate about. And I know that was something we had talked about, was this wonderful phrase that he has that, I tell you, that has been one of his core beliefs that I think it's going to be out there next year.
It's gonna be out there.
Yep,
It definitely is.
We're getting this done. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, you have to get them in the feed on this post before 10 a.m. on December 20th, 2019.
Oh, and I'll go in too. If you write a question, I'm just thinking of this, I will respond to the question. I mean, if it's to me, I'm happy to respond to the question. So I'll give you an answer.
Yep. If you ask questions past that, we'll still respond. But if you get your question in before 10 a.m. tomorrow, you have a chance to win this book. And I've read it several times, and I know it's
You've probably
very
read it
good.
more than several times.
It is an amazing book, and Matt is an awesome guy. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
here.
you for having me. This
And,
is awesome.
Yeah, reach out to Matt, book him, buy his book, all that cool stuff. If
We
you're
cleared
thinking
everybody
about,
out, and they're all gone.
Yeah, it's empty.
No, it's-
Yeah. If you're interested in writing a book too, please comment below. Let's talk. I would love to book a call with you and help you make 2020 amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, bye.
No excuses. Get after it.
Yes. And
Oh, it worked.
it says rotate.
I know it
your
did
phone.
work.